is to be builders of the kingdom of the Lord's. And so just trying to reach out to people and witness to them and tell them about His love, His redemption for them. We're going to win the war, but there's going to be a lot of battles for the souls of men that we're going to lose, because the majority of them will never come to the salvation of the Lord's. The majority of them won't. This is different. Satan's first rebellion, where he deceived 1/3 of the angels. 2/3 of them didn't buy his lies. 2/3 of them weren't deceived by him. 2/3 of them were so repulsed that they wouldn't even join him for his rebellion. And so he only gathered 1/3 of the existing angels at that time to rebel against the Lord. But in his second rebellion attempt, which is coming up shortly, when he is manifested on earth through this Sananda, this Jesus, he is probably going to get about, the tables are going to change where he's going to get the majority this time. He's going to get the majority. 2/3 people on earth will follow him and worship him as God. And so the tables are changed a bit, folks. And we literally have to fight for that other 1/3, to come to the Lord. So many people today are talkers and not walkers. And you're going to find that the walkers are those that are thrown outside the kingdom. They're not allowed inside the kingdom of God. Because they're walkers. They're not talkers. They're talkers and not walkers. Jesus says, if you love me, you will keep my commandments. If you love me, you will do the things that I say. And how many of them are doing the things that he says? Very few out of professing Christians today are actually doing the things that he says, keeping his commandments. And they don't honor his feast. They honor the Easter bunnies and the Christmas trees. They're not keeping and doing the things that he says to do. And you follow the lies that you're given by your pastors who were taught by reptilian shapeshifters that run and control seminaries, and tell them what religion is. Tell them what church doctrines are. You're hearing it from Satan himself and what they're being taught to teach in the churches today, because it's lies that leads people into apostasy, leads people into heretical doctrines, into heresies. The Lord never said the law was dead. He said the law was fulfilled. If we're still celebrating the feast of Passover and the other feasts during the millennial reign of Christ, don't you think we should be celebrating them today? Why would there be a hiccup in God's plan, where after he arose from the dead and celebrated his feasts and appointed times with his apostles, why would he stop it for 2,000 years, only for all of us to pick back up again during the millennial reign? He never stopped it, folks. He never stopped it. He appointed times and feasts for mankind to meet with him several occasions throughout the year. He didn't give us Easter bunnies and the Christmas trees and the Halloweens, anything else these churches celebrate. They compromise. Even with Halloween, they call it harvest parties now or whatever. It's all just apostasy. No one's even doing what the Lord has commanded his people to do. And makes you just want to bang your head against the wall and throw your hands up there and say, I tried to tell them. I have tried to warn them. And everybody just does their own little things. If everybody would just seek the Lord for the truth in all things, we'd all be on the same page. And that's why there's so many of you out there that when I talk to you, and I know we're on the same page, because we don't even have to send emails or messages to each other, because we're all on the same page, because we all seek the Lord. It's not because someone's sending something out, everybody's believing what that person's saying. Everybody's seeking the Lord themselves. So we're all on the same page. And that is one thing that the aliens totally cannot understand, is how we hear from the Lord, how we can all know the same things and not be in contact with each other, because they read our emails and stuff, folks. They read what you write. They know the things that the people you come in contact with and things that you say. And for so many people to just be on the same page, it just mind boggles them, because they don't understand our relationship with the Lord. They understand the things that we say to each other. So when people talk about, I had a prophecy from the Lord, he spoke to me and said this, that's how they got so good at mimicking Elf and mimicking God's voice, because of what they were hearing from the believers. These aliens, they sit on the UFOs and they have internet access. I've talked about this before. book on aliens on the internet. And they have, we got the internet from them to begin with. And so they sit on the UFOs, and they have internet access, and they go into Christian forums. And what they'll do is they'll copy down dreams and visions and prophecies. They love these apostate boards and forums, and they go in and copy them so that they can go into these boards later and infiltrate as humans and say, oh, I had a prophecy. And what they'll do is copy and paste something they took off a forum board earlier from someone else and make it sound like they're getting these words and visions from the Lord, and they will lead that entire forum into apostasy because all these people gather together and start reading everybody else's apostate visions and stuff. They share each other's spirits at that point. When you open yourself to deception, Satan's going to accommodate you. And so they get led further and further and further away from the truth and away from the Lord and farther into deceptions and errors. And it gets to the point where they all start sharing each other's same spirits that are dominating them. And the Lord spoke about that in Jeremiah, where he condemned people sharing the same visions and dreams and apostasies. They would share the same things. You know, because they don't get anything from him. They're getting them from Satan. And they're sharing them off of each other and copying each other. You know, and the Lord condemns that. You know, I've never seen where the Lord said, okay, I want all my prophets over here and my watchmen over here, and let's create a forum board and let's all join it. You know, he doesn't do that. The government does. You'll see Christians start up groups. Okay, I'm going to start up a group for a watchman, and I want everyone who thinks they're a watchman to join my list. And it's a membership list. We're only going to approve you if you think we're really a watchman. And so you got these people that think it's the thing to join, and so they'll join this watchman list. Meanwhile, the government's just taking note of everybody who thinks they're a watchman. And that's why the Lord doesn't do those kinds of things. But you'll see people on the internet in his name doing those kinds of things. And they're just government pawns, folks. You know, Satan urges believers to do certain things. Instead of really being from him, they're from Satan, and they think they're from him, and they do them. And so they're being used as pawns. And the Lord always kept his prophets separate. He kept them away from each other. The only time he had them together was obviously his 12 apostles together with him. But even when they went on their own separate missions and their own separate journeys for him and did their own things. But if you look at the Old Testament prophets, they came in different eras at different times. And I'm talking about eras, not errors. Different time periods they came at. They never walked side by side together at the same times. Because the Lord will stand one person up at a time, it seems, in a certain time frame. He'll stand one person up, and that's who he'll speak through the most. And then, you know, so you don't have all of this, okay, let's have everybody over here and everybody over there, and I just laugh, you know, 6-7 years ago when I started talking about the Bushes and warning people they were Satanists. It was these same watchman groups that kicked me out of their groups. Because I was warning them that Bush was a Satanist. They wouldn't believe it. That's how discerning these supposed watchmen and prophets were. And so that's what the Lord showed me about them, you know, and why they do these groups and why they have these groups anyway, and that they're not of him. Because one of the first things the Lord told me years ago was he did not want me a part of any organization, group, or to be affiliated with any organizations, groups, denominations, or religions, you know. And I've stayed with that. I've kept with that. Because what happens is when you become involved with these things, you just share into the apostasies and errors that everybody else drags you into. You know, when you stand alone, they're going to kick you out anyway, because they can't take it. They think you're not one of them if you're standing alone. And, you know, you stand up against false prophecies and false visions, and you tell them, hey, that's a channeled message from the New Age. That's not from the Most High God. They get mad at you. They kick you out. They don't want you around. You know, oh, that person must not really be from the Lord because I know I'm from the Lord, and the Lord said this. They're channeling all this New Age garbage. And one of the things I'll get is emails from pastors or from those who consider themselves prophets on the internet. And they'll ask me, how do you know when something is from the Lord and something is from Satan? Now, if these were so-called prophets from the Lord asking me how can you discern, obviously they're not what and who they claim they are. Because one of the things the Lord's going to give you when He stands you up is discernment. And